And yes, nobody's going to be short of their Social Security check, but the big question is what will it buy? You say, well, it won't matter because the government's going to give us our medical care and they'll give us our food stamps. It won't work that way. So this is what we have to be prepared for. And of course, that's why we have a campaign for liberty, and that's why we're here. You have supported this campaign and other campaigns, and you're doing a lot on your own. I'm encouraged. I'm enthusiastic about this because I know you're there. There was a long time when I didn't know how many of you were there. And you know, there's no way you can count the remnant. There's always a few. But the great thing is, there sure is a remnant. There are a number of people out there that knew and studied it. But what about the young people that have joined us? That's what's exciting about it. Reveal what they do, I think the American people will be with us. And you know, it's going to be real hard, no matter whom you talk to, about transparency now of Treasury and the Fed and where this money's going. Republicans and Democrats, liberals and conservatives and populists and libertarians, everybody say, yeah, you have to know what's going on. I don't think if that bill ever came to the floor, I don't believe there'd be one person that would vote and say, no, we want a totally secret Federal Reserve system. The big job will be to get it there. But they deal in trillions of dollars. And they don't have to tell us a word. I mean, they are more powerful than the other three branches of government. But the positive side of this is we do have the authority. We do have the authority, but we have the responsibility. Congress has the responsibility, but we have the responsibility to get Congress off their duffs and make sure that they look into this and take care of it. It's up to us. And that governing comes locally. Governing comes, we must govern our own lives. We must govern within our families and our local community and our churches. It's not that people want to call us anarchists and we don't want any rules and regulations. I was on a radio station just 2 nights ago, and it was a very liberal radio station. They were very nice and they let me explain, but they just couldn't understand this economic issue. They just had to have these regulations. They couldn't get it in through their mind because they do care about poor people. I think most of them have humanitarian concerns. But if they would only look at these statistics and show what happens when people allow the government to make the decisions. If you have somebody with central economic planning, they make the decision, usually wrong, it hurts all of us. Now, if we make individual choices or local government choices, they're not always going to be right. We live in an imperfect world. We're all imperfect, so we make mistakes. So that means we want to limit the damage done by those mistakes. And the market is so wonderful in sorting all this out. The market is, we don't like to use the word democracy because there's the wrong connotation of that. But the market is democratic in the sense that it's the ultimate vote. The free market is designed not to protect big labor, not to protect big business, not to protect big government, not to protect the banks or internationals. The free market is designed for the most important purpose of taking care of the consumer. And everybody is a consumer. And every time you spend a penny, used to be said a penny, now I guess you have to spend $1 to count it. Every time you spend any money at all, you're voting. And if you have a free market, it's a tough business. Because if you're in business and they don't like your product, or your cost is too high, you'll go out of business. Instead of everybody being propped up and diluted into low interest rates and guarantees and all this moral risk, moral hazard that we create through the monetary system, that stuff would be individualized, and companies would come and go, and there would be individual places where this would happen, but overall, the consumer would always be protected. And just as we protect individual liberty, the market protects the consumer. And this is where prosperity would come from. Freedom is something that has been only tried recently in the history of the world. And because through the thousands and thousands of years of recorded history, true freedom has only been tried, several hundred years, and they don't have to fret. And that, that we will be taken care of. That little parable doesn't say that we can't and shouldn't work. But if we do the right things, we really don't have to fret about it. And that's why I was saying that if we had our liberties and sound money, I wouldn't worry about tomorrow. I think we could take care of ourselves, and we could take care of our planet as well, too. Under these circumstances, it's a tremendous environmental thing as well, because you have no right to pollute your neighbor's property. People who own their property always take better care of their property than when the government owns the property, because they don't have the answers. They can't come up with a new paper currency. And they've done this in the past, and they had to resort to sound money. So they will come if we appear to have the answers. So the recommendation is that we study hard. I study every single day. I still read Mises and Rothbard. Try to understand better explanations of the marketplace, because a lot of people do ask me questions. And I want to learn it and understand it. So if you learn and study and make yourself available to solving these problems, somebody will use you. There will be a guiding hand. People are asking me every day. They'll come to my office, young kids. Oh, I love what you say. This is great, great, great. I want to do what you did. Tell me how to be a congressman. And I tell them one thing. Don't set your goal to be a congressman. It may end up that way. And I always tell the story about when I first decided to run for Congress many, many years ago. And I was in a very busy medical practice, but I was really energized by that breakdown of Bretton Woods. So in 1974, I told my wife I was going to run for Congress. And she said, well, what in the world would you want to do that for? I said, oh, I just want to talk about things, you know. I said, in 1974, what Republican would ever want to run in 1974 in a Watergate year? So she said, well, it could be dangerous. I thought, how in the world could it be dangerous? All I'm going to do is go out and talk about it. She said, well, it's dangerous. You could end up getting elected. I thought you would leave and I would never see you again, or we'd have to move to Washington and all this thing. It was never even crossed my mind about that. But no, the goal shouldn't be, you don't know what the exact goal is. Somebody might end up running for Congress, and that's okay. But I don't want people thinking at the age of 18 their goal was to be in Congress. Their goal ought to be to understand what freedom is all about, what our history is all about, what our Constitution means. And he was an original member of the Liberty Caucus in Congress, and now he's the governor of South Carolina, Mark Sanford. And lately I have had more people come at a quiet moment. They wouldn't want anybody else to know, and they would ask me questions. And how does the Federal Reserve work? Like, one person came up to me not too long ago on the banking committee and said, you mean our dollar is not backed by gold? But I also get more coming now and asking questions like, what should I do with my money? Where do you buy gold? Things are changing. The conditions that are right for us, they're very dangerous. But one other thing is, with doing this, it's very important that we have fun doing it, because we don't know exactly what happens today, tomorrow, the next day. People will say, well, when is the big crash coming? Well, a big portion of the crash has already happened. The financial system has come unglued. But the big one with the dollar, I don't know, 2 to 3 years. But I don't think so much about the exact date, because we don't know. But what I do think about is, do I understand it right? Do I know the issues as best I can? And am I doing as much as I can? And have as much fun. Being with people who are like-minded should be a lot of fun. This can be energizing. This can do a lot for us in what we're doing, because we have allies. And just remember, we don't have to wait for the 51%. We just need people like you, who are part of that 3 or 4 or 5% who will lead this country, just as there were 3 or 4 or 5% of the people who led us in the original revolution. Let us emulate the original revolution and win.